Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jessica Roerson, and I'm working with Northwest Community Futures, helping them organize and put together some economic development webinars. And today we're working with Sabrina Tabler from Grace Consulting, and she has put together this great presentation implementing a refined rural brand. And so before we get started, I just wanted to do a short land acknowledgement. As we gather here today, we acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respects to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. I know that Lisa, the general manager for Northwest, she's on the video. She's just unavailable to come onto the screen. So Sabrina, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and then we will get started.
Sure. Great. Well, thank you, Jessica, for having me on today. If everyone could maybe mute, that would be awesome. Jessica, are you able to do the muting? Okay, great. So today I'm going to be talking about implementing a refined rural brand, which was super fun presentation to pull together, actually, just looking through a lot of different communities in Saskatchewan and what they're up to and what they're doing. So it was really fun. I'm just going to introduce myself. So my name is Sabrina. I'm the founder of Grace Consulting, a brand and marketing consulting that pushes traditional marketing boundaries. One of my best accolades is that I'm a boy mama, and I've got two boys that are one of my greatest challenges and my greatest.
Want to use mine?
And things that I cannot live without are chocolate and nachos. And I would also include peanut butter and Nutella in those as well. I consider those food groups. So I'm also from a small town. So I've got that behind me as well. So I actually understand rural communities very, very well. I'm from Elrose, Saskatchewan. And I've had many different careers.
You just open them so it can be found.
I think you have to tap.
There is someone not on mute, just letting you know. So I've had several different careers. So not just different jobs, but full on different careers. So I obtained my marketing degree from the U of S first, and I was also a hairstylist. That hairstyling career put myself through university. I came out with no student loans at the end, which was amazing. Then I had babies. Then I became a Pilates instructor. So I used to view it as that I couldn't decide what I wanted to do when I grew up, but I've now realized that there is actually a common thread between all of those careers, and it's that I love making people feel and look their best, whether it's a hairstyle, a Pilates class, or their brand and marketing for their business. I just want people to look and feel their best in everything that they do. So today we're going to be talking about, there's going to be three parts to it. So the first part is just going through branding. Sometimes it's people don't really understand what a brand is. So I'm going to talk about that. And then that's going to be part one. I want to pause. I want to do like some questions, discussion, have it a little bit more interactive. And then part two is going to be diving into rural branding. So specifically what a rural brand, just there's differences, and there's ways that to go about it, and ways maybe the do's and the don'ts in it. And then I'm going to talk about specifically Northwest communities. And then we're going to talk about implementation. So not just, all of this information, but taking it and what you can do with it after that. So let's dive in. So what is a brand? So a brand is who you are as a community. It's how you make people feel. It's the relationships and it's the people within the community. It's that overall vibe and the essence that you feel when you are part of a community, when you've heard of the town name maybe, and it's the values that your community embodies. It's your uniqueness and it's your reputation. So it is not your logo and the name of your town. Maybe the name, has some part in it, but it's not everything. So you want to be clear about who you are as a community, what you stand for, and why people should come to you. Why should they come and visit your town or be a part of it? So here are a bunch of different logos. So what makes their brand is how you feel about them. So we're going to go through a few, and I want you to take a moment and analyze the following when you see them. I want you to look at your gut reaction, your overall perception of them. Are they professional? Is it kind of, is it weird colors? Is it, how does it make you feel in terms of their, the essence about them? Have you had good experiences and interactions with these brands? And do you know what each of them are? Can you recall the names without, some of them have the name in them, but if you didn't see the name, would you know who they are? So I want you to just pop into the comments if you know what this brand is, and just take a little bit to go, okay, I know this brand, or maybe you don't know it, put that in as well. And then also just think about how you feel about it, whether you've had experiences with this brand or not. Next one, same thing. How does it make you feel? Have you interacted with this brand before? Maybe you've ordered things and maybe you've had a good experience, maybe you haven't. If you've never picked up on this, in this logo, it's the everything from A to Z in the logo. So that is how that logo was developed, very strategically. I think everyone knows this brand pretty well. It's one of my favorite. It's a brand I use a lot in my presentations as an example of an iconic brand. But how does it make you feel? What do you think of when you immediately see this logo? And take a note of the different colors in the brands as well. Happen to be using this right now. Maybe you've used some of these yourself. Or you've got teenagers maybe that use them. Okay, so then that is what a brand is. It's the feeling. So what exactly is branding? So there's a distinct difference between branding and marketing. So your branding that's when you get into your visual identity. So that's your logo, your color palette, the fonts that you use. It's your messaging. It's that mission, your vision, your why you exist. And it's your voice. It's your tone and your essence. It's your graphics and your images, your packaging, maybe a storefront, displays. In a lot of rural communities, it's your welcome sign with the name of your town on it. There could be an iconic, structure or sculpture, and it's your artistic and action-based part of your branding. And then marketing on the other side is the distribution of your branding. So it's the platforms that you use to propel your brand. So that could be social media, email, websites, brochures, billboards, advertising, anything that gets your brand out there and noticed. So it's more logistic and action based. So it's how you let people know about you, where to find you, how to purchase what you offer, how to be part of your community. And it speaks to the mind, not necessarily the heart. So it's the how. So things that go into the visual identity piece. So this is a color emotion guide. So whether we know it or not, different colors can emit different emotions. So this is a general, what's been kind of determined through a lot of different research and stuff, the different colors and what types of emotions that they can bring up for people. So it's very interesting. I don't know if you can see super clear all the different brands in there, but the Coca-Cola, for example, is like excitement. It's bold. So anything with a red color, Target, some really big brands. And then orange can be the friendly, cheerful, like confidence. What is another one? Oh, John Deere. I like that. It's like the peaceful, health, those kind of things. So you wouldn't necessarily think of that when you think of John Deere, but it does. When you, green is always associated with the peaceful approach. And gray is more like balance and calm. So when you're choosing your colors and your color palette for your brand identity, those are some of the things that you want to consider. So when I go through this with my clients, I like to give an inspiration photo and then some inspiration words that go along with that, and then some color combo examples. So these are just a few examples. So inspiration photo is of the mountains. So inspiration theme is welcoming, nature, outdoors, earthy, rooted, and strong. This one is more kind of retro, boho, trendy, lighthearted, free-spirited. So you immediately feel those things and the colors that associate and go along with it. Then you get into your logo development. So these can have elements of your colors. Then you start getting into font, and then it's naming, whether you have the name in your logo, whether you don't, and it's just an image, or whether you have a combo of both. So there can be an image and the name of the company as well. So these are just a few examples. This one I particularly love. This is a client of mine that they actually combined the names of their wives into their, the first names of their wives into their company. So it's two men that own it. They're combining their two construction companies and developing one of their own. And then you go into typography. So this is your font. You can choose, usually it's a body font where it's your main copy, and then also headings, and then like a script or like an accent kind of font. So no more than 3 are usually used. I'm going to give an example of, and I'm going to pick on probably some communities a little bit, but it's all in good light. So this one is Bright Sand Lake. I noticed that when you go onto their website, it's got a particularly distinct font and feel to it. There's a few different fonts that are happening throughout this site, but immediately you get an impression right away of this site just based on the font. So if I just go back, different than, maybe what this type of font emits in terms of perception versus this. It's a little bit more playful, a little bit different of a font. So I just wanted to use those 2 examples. Now I want you to, going into taglines. So taglines are often part of a brand and can also emit that emotion or kind of catchy recognition. You can recall them. So I want you to put your answers in the comments of name the brand. So there are some things that money can't buy. For everything else, there's, and then you can answer. I don't think I can see the comments, but. So if you can't think of that one, it's MasterCard. Just Do It. My oldest son owns a lot of this brand and has kind of become a bit of a brand snob with this. So it's Nike. What's in your wallet? This is Capital One. My youngest son and I were trying to think of what this one was the other day, because he used to repeat it when he was about 3 or 4 years old. Like, talk about a catchy tagline. He would see the commercial a couple times and he knew it off by heart, and he would just start saying it. So this is Scotiabank. You're richer than you think. One of my favorites, totally takes me back.
Mhm.
Is Snap Crackle Pop, which the product is Rice Krispies, but the brand is Kellogg's. And with this one too, I just wanted to mention, it immediately emits emotion, right? It can take you back. You can remember that little pop in your mouth when you're eating that cereal, maybe back to being a kid and enjoying it, or maybe as an adult. You can also think of Rice Krispies being in Rice Krispie cake, maybe that a particular family member makes, or maybe you make it yourself. So why is all of this important? Why is branding so important? Why am I so passionate about it? It's because people want to work for and support a community that they trust. So that is why it's important for a rural community. It creates that familiarity, trust, recognition. It's comforting. Shared values ultimately shape your community. So when your values as a community shine through, that is your ultimate brand. It's what you stand for, what change do you want to bring about, and what do you most care about? A brand creates clarity and helps you to stay focused. So when it is clear who a community is, it can help with decision making. A clear brand strategy makes it easy to say no to things that don't necessarily align. So it helps create that, instead of taking on everything, you can say no to things that really don't fit or really support your community. It helps to connect your community on an emotional level, something that they're proud of, something they can bond over, something that they can represent, something that they can be a part of. One of the greatest human needs is to belong. And a strong brand provides value to your community in big ways. So we'll go over this more in depth of how we cover how a strong brand can create revenue in your community. And it's cohesiveness in your brand. It creates both that comfort and credibility. So here are just a few examples of some cohesive brands in terms of their distribution of it in different ways, and then that cohesive visual identity. So immediately you kind of get that sense of, when you see this brand, oh, okay, it's going to be those soft blue colors. It's going to have that kind of flowy feel to it. Here's another example. So it's that consistency, the cohesiveness. So no matter where you see these different brands, you're going to see those same colors, the same color palette, the same fonts, the same kind of look and feel to it. It's going to immediately emit that same emotion, whether you see them online, whether you see their stuff in print, in any form of advertising. So why is this consistency critical? So what brand consistency does is it creates familiarity. There's a sense of knowing what to expect. There's a sense of trust. And when you know what to expect, that eliminates surprises and trust naturally builds. It's comforting, which is that trust creates that ultimate comfort. Recognition, this allows your community to be known. The recall, there's a greater chance of remembering the names, colors, or essence of your community if there's consistency. And it's a reminder. So when your brand is seen and heard and it's the same over and over again, it stays top of mind. And it reinforces. So if someone continues to hear the name, sees the logo, you're building that credibility and trust purely by repetition. The brain naturally looks for patterns and association. My favorite brand. So why is Apple's brand so powerful? The main thing is because it does not waver. So I want you to imagine if all of a sudden someone within Apple decided, you know what, a traditional apple is maybe red or green. So they decided to add that in. What if their website started talking about branching off into clothing and food markets? So how they position themselves. What if they all of a sudden started to make their technology products at a hugely discounted rate and low end? Personally, I would love if they discounted them, but they will never. And that's part of their brand. That's how they position themselves in the market as well. So these are extreme, but this is how damaging veering off your brand could be. It doesn't seem like it should matter if a font is slightly off, or if the colors of your logo are different, or the sizes are off, or your tagline is not right, but it really does. And us as consumers would notice this right away. I can also venture to say that Apple likely has several brand managers, all gatekeeping with a strict set of guidelines for every product and every communication that goes out. This is what makes their brand so strong. So how do you maintain that brand consistency? It requires that you guard and protect your brand with high standards of expectation. So you diligently deliver your brand consistent across every marketing channel you use, always reiterating your message, your values, and your visual identity. This can require some brand police. Now, this can be especially hard in rural communities to have the people in place to be able to manage this. But it really ultimately can be built into one of the town roles. You want to ideally look for someone that is passionate about these types of things and willing to see them through to, kind of guard and protect the brand of the community. So here's another example of brand cohesiveness, that this immediately makes you feel comfortable, that you can trust this company, and that they look very professional. That's the power of a brand strategy in action with its visual identity piece on point. So what exactly is a brand strategy then? A brand strategy is where you start. So all of these elements are part of a brand strategy. So it's that essence and that vibe that's created. So this is your brand personality. It's the personality of your community. The emotional connection to your community is the shared values. Then you go into your voice and your messaging. So that's where your purpose, your vision, your mission, your target audience, your audience goals, so what you want for your community, and your own personal goals as a community as well. So there's always, specific goals that you're also trying to achieve, especially when it comes to economic development. You're wanting to attract those people to your community. You want the businesses to be thriving and ultimately bring in more people. There's also the visual identity piece, which is that, like I said, sometimes people just think of a brand and they think just solely of that. But the visual identity, as you can see, plays a part in those deeper feelings in terms of the brand. So it's the color palette, it's the typography, font, create a mood board of, maybe you're not quite at the brand that you want to be, but you have a strategy of the mood and the feeling that you want to create. So you can pull together a bunch of different images of, how you want, where you want to go. That ties into your goals as well. And then it's the images and graphics, whether it's, professional photography of people in your community, or it's certain graphic, maybe little icons that you develop that are representative of your community as well. And then it's the distribution. So where are you going to put this branding? How are you going to use it? How is it going to propel forward? So that could be anything from social media, your website, emails, any advertising, signage, and of course at all of your events. So if you have that cohesiveness through every time someone sees and hears about your community, that you've got that same branding going through. So brands are essentially patterns of familiarity, meaning, fondness, and reassurance that exist in the minds of people. So I want to just pause and just take a moment if there's any questions, if you'd like to discuss it, if there's particular things that you're like, I don't really understand that point, or anything about your particular community that you'd like to maybe jump in on.
I find it very interesting how different fonts will present in such a different way.
Isn't that? It's so cool. I find that very fascinating.
Wild. It goes from professional to childish.
Yep.
And it's fascinating. And even in terms of, being able to be accessible to all, because some fonts are very hard for people with disabilities as well.
Absolutely.
And, it's very interesting how much it changes the look.
Mm-hmm. And font, in terms of web font, so something that can be seen in a digital format and something that can be used in print is very different as well. So you want to look at all those options and where you're using the font and typography in all those different places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so cool to see, like, maybe for daycare or, things like that, you've got that little more playful kind of font. And then when you've got something a little bit more professional, there's certain fonts that just speak to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all of those things are taken into consideration when I go through with a client, deciding on fonts and font pairings and what goes well together. And yeah, it's a whole thing that people just kind of take for granted that, oh yeah, I'll just pop that up there. And they don't realize that how much effect it can play when it isn't consistent. It just immediately makes your brain go, oh, like it can do a few things like, oh, they don't really care, or it can be, oh, that's kind of just sloppy, not professional, or it can just start to break down that recall and like, oh, I don't even think that's actually part of that same brand because they've like veered off so much.
And also it depends on who is in charge of creating these posters or who's managing social media or whatever, because, my generation is going to be a lot different than somebody 20 years younger than me and or older than me. So it really needs to not just be an individual choice, but a strategic endeavor.
Absolutely. And that's when I talked about the gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. It's good for someone that's passionate about it, that is okay, approaching someone and saying, love that you're putting this out there for our community. Could you just add this in? And usually people will gladly, take on any branding. And if you've got your ducks in a row and you've got all the stuff to be able to provide them in terms of logos, color palette, kind of like a whole brand guide, just pass that along, they follow it and you're good to go. It's just getting those pieces in place. And I know for a lot of rural communities, it's just like, you're just happy when people are doing stuff and like, you're not going to get on them about a specific brand thing necessarily, but I think there is like, and we'll talk about this, like strategic and ways to really add value to your community by doing that. So not looking at it like you're kind of, getting down people's throats on it, but really propelling that. Okay, so let's talk about specifically rural brands. So one that I looked up that I really liked what they're doing, that going on their website gave me an immediate feel for their community. So this is Shaunavon, they're in Southwest Saskatchewan, and they have this as one of two taglines that they have. So they call themselves a tourism hub for Southwest Saskatchewan. So that's a positioning part of their branding strategy. So they're positioning themselves as they're stating it as a tourism hub. And the town of Shaunavon, this is their logo. The town of Shaunavon is where the West is still wild. So, their logo gives you that feel, that sense of, what their community is all about and what you're to expect when you arrive there. Now, this is in Alberta, but I'm sure just by seeing this, you already know which community this is. Now, this community, I wanted to bring up as an example because they have nailed it in terms of their branding and their marketing. So if you don't know already, this is the town of Vegreville. So it's the site where they have the giant, the biggest Easter egg in, I think in Canada. And you'll notice the little kind of stars up on the side where it's kind of the design from the Easter egg that they've incorporated right into their logo and some of the colors as well. And you'll start to notice this throughout some of their branding as well. So this is their website. So they have a distinct color palette. It enhances the Easter egg, and they follow their branding to a T. So you can see on either side of their website that they've got the same little Easter egg pattern kind of throughout. So they've got the little icons threaded throughout, and they've got that same color scheme throughout as well. It immediately gives you a sense of their community, and it looks very professional, and you feel comforted by that. You know what to expect, you know what's there, and that I think sometimes too, maybe this is my own bias, but that they're going to be open. Some rural communities, it's like, I don't know if I go there, if there's going to be anything really happening. So it gives you that sense. Now, they are a bit different, that they have a specific iconic element in their town that draws people in. So they are definitely a tourism destination as well. But they didn't start that way. Someone along the way developed this, and then they ran with it from there. So maybe that's where your town is headed. Maybe it's strategic and you want to develop your Easter egg for people to come and see, whatever that might be. So that is also part of your brand strategy. Maybe it's developing something like that draws people in. Another one that I came across was North Battleford. So when I went, I love their logo. I love this logo. When I went to their site though, I've been to North Battleford. I love North Battleford. I have fond memories of my great grandma used to live there. We traveled there lots when I was a kid. I've been there for my sons. They held the Sask Winter Games 4 years ago, and my son was part of that. So I have fond memories of North Battleford and have been to events there. When I went to the website though, I didn't get that feel of what North Battleford is all about. I saw the big water tower, but nothing else that really gave me that feel of what the heart of North Battleford. But when I dug a little further and I came into the careers section of their website and I clicked on a YouTube video, it went into this beautiful landscape aerial view of North Battleford, and had this music playing behind it. And then I was like, okay, that is the sense that I was looking for. And then it went into, you know, different career opportunities and why you would want to essentially move there or work there. So how does a rural brand turn into dollars in your community? Because ultimately a community needs to survive. And so you need the branding to turn into that for your community. So it's easier to attract investors for a community that is well branded. It just builds that credibility and trust that the money will be handled well. People want to be part of a community that they feel connected to. And when word gets out about the reputation, the value, the excitement spreads, and people will want to come to events in your community. And a unified community, when they feel they belong, have an opportunity to contribute and feel they are working towards a greater good and a purpose that's beyond themselves. So this, when you're branded really well, people know your purpose and your mission. They want to join in, they want to be a part of it. When they don't know it, how can they be a part of it or have that that sense of wanting to be a part of it when they don't know what exactly it is?
I just wanted to interrupt. There's just a comment here. It said, we fell in love with Unity when we were still in South Africa, also by the YouTube video they had. So obviously that's, you know, video does do a good job.
It does such a good job of emitting those emotions, and I would say every small town in Saskatchewan has heart, like 100% has heart, but it's just, you want to draw that out. That's what a brand strategy does, is draws that out, and then you put it into those distribution channels. So into the YouTube videos, on your social media, spread it far and wide. Oh, I love that they could get a sense of the community even before they moved. And that's ultimately, that's what you want. You want to give that so that people get a sense of it before they make a decision to move their family to it. So I'm going to pick on my hometown. So Elrose, easy to brand this with the L and the rose. So great signage as you enter the town. But as I dove in and looked for more ways, just digitally, to look for other branding, I was hard pressed to find it threaded throughout. There isn't a particular color scheme to this. You know, it's got the white and the red with the rose, and then it's got the green and stuff. So is that the color scheme? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's just the sign. And so I found a Facebook page, which is the Town of Elrose. It's got the little sign up in the corner, which is great. And then I noticed that even like some of this looks like a printed, you know, probably stuck on a wall somewhere, but it has the L and the rose. So I was like, that's great. This is a perfect example of how you can thread those little elements throughout that give people that sense of community, that pride, and that just translates through into all different forms, whether it's a printed poster hanging up in the post office or in the grocery store or wherever. It's got that element in it. And the more you do it, the more people will jump on board. And if you let the community know, hey, do you need our fonts? Do you need the graphics? This is our color palette. This is what we use. This is our community. This is our thing. And you have that sense of pride. And then they will gladly use it when they're distributing and creating events and doing things, because they want it to be on brand and community focused. And then I found the Elrose Library. So, and just little things like the picture that's in the corner, I think is of the inside of the library. All these things are fine, but it just adds more depth and a professional element when there maybe is a branded header. Very iconic small town is that there's a bunch of random buildings, random signage, random things. That's just, that's part of the nature of a small town as well. But trying as best you can through branding to start to change that or weave a new sense through. And then this is the local tavern. So really funny saying in the header, which is great. That also gives you kind of a sense, but there's ways that you can incorporate that kind of goofy element still in with branding without taking away from the business itself. You still want your individual businesses within the towns to have their own identity and their own branding, but you can also pull in elements of the town as well. And then there's the sports teams. So ways to incorporate, and I've seen different ways of this done, definitely in terms of like welcoming signs into communities where I've seen, you know, proud home of, you know, the Aces, like this is a minor ball team, but I think also their hockey teams are the Aces as well. And then the pool. So this is great. You know what? It's got the actual pool itself. The Uniplex in Elrose is one of the like really big features of the town. So it's got a curling rink, a skating rink, and a pool all in one. So it's basically the hub of the community. It's right beside the school. But what I would love to see in this from a branding perspective is that little, whatever the logo is, but that L with the rose in it, right up in the header as well. It just helps to reinforce that brand. Oops. And then there's the school. So there's the school teams are the Elrose Eagles. So then you've got this blue and yellow. So when you're developing a brand color palette, you want to take all those things into consideration. So what are the school team colors? What is the team colors for some of your sports? If sports is a really big part of your community, you definitely want to take those into consideration when you're developing your town's brand, just like Vegreville did with the Easter egg. And that was, weaved in, and it needed to be a color scheme that accented their Easter egg. So in particular, when I looked through all of the different rural communities that are part of the Northwest, I immediately had some memories immediately. So Anaheim, I think I spelled that wrong. Anaheim, I've been there for a dinner theater. It was off the charts. It was like, and I think they've been doing it for I don't know how many years. My friend happened to be a part of it, so she invited us to come out. It was incredible. Like I can't even say enough about it. Battleford is the history. There's huge amounts of history there that is such a tourist attraction that could be leveraged in so many ways. Big River, there's an RV park that's just outside of there with the best ice cream and just really personable people that own it that have just left a mark in my heart. My in-laws had a trailer there for a few years, and so we traveled there quite a bit to see them. My parents also now own a cabin at Cowan Lake. So we travel through Big River to go and see them. We usually have to stop, get some gas. There is a fun little store there that I really want to check out that I haven't been able to. Also, we just discovered this past winter that there's a little ski and snowboarding hill that we went and checked out the one day as well. And then Blaine Lake. So Blaine Lake, we have a cabin that is at Lac La Pêche. So Blaine Lake, I just have such a soft spot for, and I think it is like a little community that could like explode even more. They call themselves, I think it's the gateway to the lakes. I'm pretty sure that that's their tagline. And one thing in particular that they do every summer is they put hanging flower baskets all the way down the main road to the main road that we take to our lake, straight through the town, which I think is such a cool thing. I now look for it. I'm like, oh, I wonder when they're going to put the hanging baskets out. And then there's Borden. So Borden, There's the Borden Bridge, which is just an iconic part of the Borden community. And then there's also a new campground there, which I know of, that overlooks the river. Beautiful, beautiful views of the river. And the only reason I know that is because my in-laws now, they moved from the one by Big River. They wanted to be a little bit closer. So now they have their camper at this new campground. And then Chittick Lake. So my husband has gone there for years with a friend of his that has a cabin. It's known for their quadding, fishing, snowmobiling. Cochin is that quaint resort town, and it has the lighthouse. Oh, when I looked up this, so I've been there, I had actually forgotten that with a friend years and years ago, I was probably 12. We walked up those stairs to the lighthouse, and I remember it being such a long walk at that time. And then funny things about like the lighthouse being there, but really why? Like, why is there a lighthouse in the Bald Prairies? But it's beautiful views. The pictures that I saw that were posted on Instagram of several photographers that love to go up there and take photos. There was one of the moon in the background. So just really cool ways of leveraging these amazing little iconic elements of these small towns. I also found District Brewing is a company that's by Cochin, that they had a picture of the lighthouse and different things in their brand and marketing. And then South 40 Designs was another company that I came across. And then Leask. So the RM of Leask is where we get our permits for anything that we need to do for our lake property. We can have good or maybe bad interactions with that. It's not actually bad. We had to move one of our sheds a little bit in from where the property or where the RM road line is. So not a big deal, but that's what I associate with when I hear the town of Leask. Landis and Lashburn. I'm pretty sure those names of those towns came up because I'm pretty sure I played volleyball in them when I was younger. And then Marcelin is near our small town, or near our lake. So that is also, aside from Blaine Lake, is another place that if we need to go get some groceries. There's also been some potluck dinners that our neighbors right beside us at the lake, they've attended. So we've heard about those. And then Shell Lake, I was coming back from Meadow Lake, and my boys and I stopped in Shell Lake. I forget what it was that we needed. We went into this cool store that had super awesome clothing that you would never, like brand name clothing that you would never think of in a small town. And then Spiritwood is known for an amazing golf course. So just a few of those, that's just me, seeing just the name of the town and it emitting those memories and those different things that really stood out for those communities. Any questions or discussion points at this point? Observations, anything that you'd like to ask me? Anything that you're liking so far? Yes, Josie.
I really like your point about Blaine Lake, because I think it's a really wonderful town, and how many people go through there to go to the lake. I noticed, I think this was a couple of years ago, but the Blaine Lake liquor store started ramping up their advertising in Saskatoon. And I always thought like, wow, what a good idea, because now all these people are thinking, hey, Blaine Lake liquor store, when they're driving through, and then they stop, and it's always super busy at the Blaine Lake liquor store.
Always.
Yeah, so I thought at first I was kind of like, why are they advertising in Saskatoon? Like, that seems kind of funny. But then once you start to think about it.
Yeah, because everyone's like, not everyone, but a lot of people are coming from Saskatoon through that point. So if they, if they forgot something along the way, or if they just want to wait and, pick up whatever on their way through, then, and the Blaine Lake, like it's the hardware store, it's the liquor store, it's the everything. So you need something. And yeah, they had the radio station come out and do like live on locations out there. They've really done a great job of advertising. Yeah,
it's great. And we almost always stop there on our way, because we go camping out that way. My family all lives over there. And so we're always stopping at the liquor store just because it's in my head
Yeah.
because of their advertising.
And-
So silly, but
Yeah, that's like, that is brand and marketing working, like right
for
there.
sure. Yeah, for sure.
Now there's another little quaint restaurant out there that has, like, they've done such a good job of the interior of it. Like, they've got half of a car kind of in there, like it's that retro kind of old cafe style vibe. But like, they could be doing so much more with getting that out there. And that could be someone's stop, that maybe they, you know, they hit that for a meal on the way out, because they don't want to get to the lake and have to cook when they get there. They want to just, you know, be on the road. They're all packed up and ready to go, hit there for some food, and then continue on. So there's so many ways to leverage that community in particular. I've also, this is like random thing, but I've also dreamt of like creating a clothing store there that has like specific like sundresses and like lake attire that, like, oh, maybe you forgot this, or maybe you know, need this, and that has those specific elements in it. So who knows, maybe that's like a down the road retirement thing for me. Okay, any others?
We just had a few questions, I mean, little comments. So
Yeah.
Andrea said, small plug for sundaydrive.ca. You can see a bunch of fun stuff to do in rural Saskatchewan. And Denise said, we are new to Saskatchewan, so I love all these names of these little places that we can visit one day. And Community Futures Venture says, Cypress Hills, Sand Dunes, Big Muddy, all cool places to see in South Saskatchewan.
Nice. Yes. Yeah, there are so many places in Saskatchewan.
Mhm.
Love it. Thank you for those comments. Okay, so getting into implementation. So while this is all well and wonderful, how do you go about it? Like, where do you even start? So keep in mind, because it can feel a little bit overwhelming, but keep in mind that a brand is fluid. So it continually needs to evolve with your community and with the trends that are happening. Maybe you can't keep this kind of old look and feel when your community is actually quite vibrant and trendy. So you got to kind of grow and evolve with your community. So brand strategy is always, always, always where you start. So these are the elements that are necessary when you're developing that brand strategy. So it's your purpose, it's your vision, it's your mission, it's why your little town exists, what and where you want to head, what you want to do, what the vision is for your community, what your mission is, what you value. Again, one that does this really well is Vegreville. They have a vision, a mission statement, and their values clearly stated on their website. So where are you headed as a community? Do you have a clear vision and do you have measurable goals? And does your community know about them? So are you surviving? Are you just getting by, or are you thriving? In your brand personality. So who are you in amongst a sea of other communities? What makes you stand out? Every community has a unique feature to it, every single one of them. So what is that? Kind of draw that out. It could be, you know, something specific about the people in that community. It could be a landmark. It could be specific businesses that all have kind of a tie together. The options are endless. You just have to start to think about it and really draw that out, and then identify it and run with it. And then you want to ask yourself, how can we bring value to their lives and connect on an emotional level? So how are you bringing value to the people of your community, to the people that visit your community? So you want to do this through finding that consistency and looking for opportunities. So ways to create that consistency is through social media channels, through your website, through signage, through YouTube videos, through looking for ways of getting your messaging out there in consistent ways. So maybe you've got, just like I showed, Elrose has all of those different channels out there, but there is zero consistency between all of them, where just the slightest little bit of threading that brand through could make all the difference. And then seek opportunities to engage the community. So events, online showcases, showcasing different different businesses in your community, highlighting certain people. Like, people love people. They want to know who's there. They want to know, they want to hear the stories from some of the elderly people that have been there for years that say, oh, back in whatever year, this is what used to be in this location. Tell the history of your community. People love that, especially new people coming in. They want to know what this community is all about and what it's evolved into, where it started, what it's evolved into. And then you want to look for congruency and collaboration. So this can mean noticing the current brand alignment. So notice the ways that this is already happening and leverage those alignments and look for different opportunities. And so that could be in the current businesses that are already in part of your community. Maybe certain individuals really embody this. So leverage those individuals, help propel them forward. If they've got really innovative ideas, help them and kind of glean information from them. And then community groups. Maybe these community groups could be thriving even more. They just need a little bit of brand alignment, or they're already doing something that could be where your brand strategy evolves from, this amazing community group that is really maybe the heart of your town. And you also want to start to make strategic collaborations. So it's community over competition. So leveraging other community attractions, there could be nearby communities and multiple business promotions. So it could be another small town that's close by that has another maybe similar type of business, and you're kind of promoting and helping each other. Maybe you come together. This is a very different mindset than it used to be, where it's like everybody for themselves. But the new generations coming up will not stand for competition. They want that collaboration mindset. They want everybody to work together. And so maybe there's a couple different auto body shops in these different communities. Well, they come together and they every year have a barbecue that's on a specific day, but they do it together. They're not looking at like cutthroat competition, but they're coming together because they're all serving people in different ways and in different, they can't serve everyone. So why not come together when they're having an event, share those resources, share that attraction, share the promotion, and then get even more people excited about what they're doing. And there's also a huge opportunity to create, like you said, with the Sunday drive, to create buzz around provincial travel. So with COVID, people are not traveling as far or as frequently anymore. So this is a huge opportunity for rural communities to really create that fun adventure for people in Saskatchewan. And really, people just want direction. They just want to know like where to go. I'm super excited to look up the Sunday Drive website. So thank you, whoever that was that mentioned that, because that's what people want. Even near my lake, like there's some days that, maybe it's a rainy day or whatever, and I want to just take my boys and just explore. So out near Blaine Lake, there's also the Doukhobor hills, or I don't even know what they are, but Doukhobor community out there that you can learn. See, I haven't gone, I need to go and learn. But I would love, like, map it out for me. I don't want to just drive endlessly. I want to have a little trail that I can follow, and oh, now we can go here and now we can go there. I kind of did that one year. We've traveled this route from Saskatoon to our lake for years. But we're always on a mission, just got to get there and get unpacked and get settled. But the one day I'm like, you know what, boys, we're going to take our time. We're going to stop at every little quaint place along the way. So we stopped at the little place that has antiques. And it was just like all kinds of treasures in there. We drove into I'm going to forget now.
Petrovka.
Yeah, we stopped at Petrovka. They've got amazing products there. Yeah, we got an ice cream there. We went to where they have live theater. The Barn and Playhouse. We stopped there just because I wanted to see it. I've never attended one there, but I just wanted to see what it looked like. We drove in there. We drove through back in to see where Pineview Farms is, where they provide a lot of organic meat and stuff. And then we stopped at the little place up on the hill. I think we also got ice cream there. We may have doubled up on the ice cream that day. And yeah, it was just so much fun to stop. We stopped at the dairy farm as well. So my boys got to see some of the dairy cows. They were thrilled. They walked us around. It was just like so amazing. So there's a lot, but people just want a route a lot of times. So if you partner with other communities, you can really create this adventure through Saskatchewan for people. And then also to think outside the box, like you had mentioned, Josie, like saying partnering and promoting yourself in Saskatoon or partnering with companies out of Saskatoon. So two that come to mind are Back to Nature Wellness, that provide all kinds of different, they're doing a lot of paddleboarding, little retreats, like just basically get outside and experience nature. So maybe they would travel to some, especially in these Northwest communities where the lakes are so much more accessible. So partner with them. They're doing the promoting of it. You're just providing the location, and then your town gets to thrive by them eating at your businesses, maybe buying groceries, attending whatever in these small towns. And then also Cedar and Sage Retreats is a retreat partnership. So maybe they want to come out and provide certain retreats, or maybe that's part of their retreat is, having an adventure heading out in that direction. So, and that's just a couple off the top of my head. There are probably many, many more that you could, but as soon as you have that part of your brand strategy, you could start to look and you'll start to see those opportunities kind of pop up once you head down that road. So one that I found that was really cool that Community Futures Sunrise is doing, they just recently launched this campaign that drives tourism to their area, and they're welcoming visitors to that southeastern Saskatchewan. And so it launched June 8th, it looks like, and it points the people to a bunch of multimedia sources to learn about the variety of experiences. So like I said, people just want to be pointed in the right direction, like where can I go and like what can I do? And so there's 8 Southeast explorers that they're sharing their experiences of the region. So they've got these basically brand ambassadors out there. So they've created, you can see the visual identity through this community. And then now they have 8 specific people that are out just spreading the word. So that's through Facebook, Instagram pages, their own social media channels, and a soon to be launched Explore SE website. So yeah, like I said, they're visiting destination businesses, traveler hotspots, and those hidden gems within communities throughout southeastern Saskatchewan. So it's just another idea of definitely they would be partnering with a bunch of different surrounding towns. And so different distribution ways is you could develop a YouTube channel showcasing attractions in and around your community. You could do a podcast, interview local business owners. Business owners always want to talk about their businesses and any way and fashion that they could get more out there. And it could really turn into something quite fun. And social media accounts, you want to have that consistent look and feel. Same with your website, same with any signage, and same with any communications that are going out. You want to have that feel and that essence of your community that thread through. So now I've given you all of this information. It can feel kind of like, oh, I don't know where to start. There's so many options and directions that you can go, especially in the digital world. There's all of this different social medias. There's just endless opportunities now for getting the word out there. It sometimes is like, I don't even know where to start. And this is a lot of the times where people get stuck and they're like, I don't know if I have any good ideas. And do we even have enough people to implement this properly? So then people just stop and they just think, oh, they give up on it. So this is where I could potentially come in. So I have a marketing degree. I'm educated in all the complex strategies, but my advice is to keep your marketing backpack small. My mantra is to keep things simple and sustainable, and most importantly, effective. And so I want to just remind you that the most important marketing message is who your community is. So there's only one of your community. You can't replicate Blaine Lake. Blaine Lake is Blaine Lake. Cochin is Cochin. There is one Blaine Lake and there is one Cochin. You can't, that is your truly your most effective marketing tool, is because it's just your community. Your best light that is only truly yours is radiated instead of the how and the kind of the nuts and bolts of your community. There is only your community and always will be. So it's your greatest marketing asset. So your brand, I can help you bring it to be well aligned. Economic development will take off because of this, and with all the things that I had mentioned before, with investors coming on board a little bit easier, making those strategic partnerships, bringing people in to your community that want to work there, that reduce or increase employment retention, bring in new families. There's lots of different features. And then your community will thrive because you've got that authenticity, you've got that really fun feature to your community that people now know about. So your community's best light will shine through visually and through your messaging. You'll be so proud of your marketing. So the effectiveness at drawing in ideal community members and tourists. You'll be attracting families that want their kids to attend schools there and tourists to attend events. You'll grow your community exponentially via new business development, opportunities, sustained employment, and employee satisfaction. You'll have a greater sense of accomplishment and feel happier and proud of your marketing. And if you're still not sure, really can a brand strategy and a rebrand do all of that? I would love to chat with you and see, maybe we can just have a little chat about determining what the vision is for your particular community. We can restore your confidence in your marketing and ensure that your brand and marketing reflects your individual community. So just a little brief on what I offer. So I do a brand you marketing toolkit. It includes a brand audit. I do a sweep through of all of the stuff that you're currently doing and what's out there for your community. We develop a brand strategy, and then we do some customized graphics, some messaging, website and social media strategies, maybe other distribution types of strategies as well, like the ones that I had mentioned, and then any platform training that you might need in terms of implementation. So between good and great, there's grace. So I love coffee, virtual and in person. I would love to meet all of you. So please reach out anytime and we can further this conversation. And thank you. It was great to be here with all of you today. Thank you, Jessica, for having me. As always, if you don't have questions right now, but you think of something later, just reach out. I would love to chat.
That's great. Thank you, Sabrina. That was very good.
You're welcome.
Very thorough. Let's just see here. Yeah. from Jenny from Sage Hill. This was awesome. Lots of great information. Honestly, very good. Another comment, fantastic. Thank you so much. I loved the practical applications and giving some firm examples with the towns within this region. I agree so wholeheartedly. There's so much potential in all of these rural communities.
Yeah, it just is a matter of drawing that out. And sometimes it takes an outside perspective to see, oh, like that's really like, that's what you see in our community. And that could really be marketed. Like it's often what sometimes people in the community are very humble and they don't really think, oh, is that a big deal? But to outside people, it really is.
I remember the first time I went to Cochin, I went to a staff retreat at Jackfish Lake and was canoeing in the lake. It toppled over and the sand was soft.
Oh, yeah.
And I will never forget that it was the most clear water and the ground was soft sand, no weeds. And I loved that little lighthouse. And the rolling hills. And every time now that I drive through there, I'm like, why isn't it busier? Why isn't it cuter here?
Yes.
There's so much potential.
So much potential. Yes. And I have that same feeling when I go through so many towns, actually, like so much potential. Yeah.
So it doesn't look like there's really any other questions. Josie said, thank you, really enjoyed this. So, very wonderful feedback, Sabrina. So thank you. This really been so great and very helpful.
You're so welcome.
And I think it looks like there's no other questions and comments. So I will be sure to, oh, Josie has something to say. Go ahead, Josie.
Sorry, I should have just let you end the Zoom session.
No.
I think, I don't know if you can answer this or maybe provide your outlook, but I think the biggest struggle in rural communities is getting people to understand the value in like marketing in general, but online marketing. And especially when you have, maybe you have like older people involved in your organization who say they've never done that and it's not needed and it's hard for them to see the value. Do you have any way that you
I think that's why I spent a significant part of my presentation on what branding is and why it's important. So it's just a matter of educating them on it. And yeah, they often, because that's not their world and they don't understand it. So then they think, well, how can we get a return on investment in that? And it's understanding what that return looks like. So, and it might not be immediate. So that's building a brand can take time. And when you do it really well, you're creating this foundation initially, and then you're building upon that, and then you're building upon that. And it can take some time, or it can really just explode. Sometimes it's tough to know how things are going to be received, and you just keep trying different things and see what lands. But also, I think what would probably hit home with them is the potential for investment. So there are tons of grants out there, even like with tourism. They will provide, if you're willing to create something, there is tons of money out there that they will gladly hand to rural communities to create an experience for people of Saskatchewan. So that may be something that will really speak to them. And then you're like, this is the digital age. The way we get the word out there is through these channels. And that's just the way that it has to be done. And then just the importance of having that consistent. So not having different messaging of a specific event here, and then it looks totally different. And then people think, is that even the same event? I don't know. So yeah, just having that cohesiveness through. Yeah, it's tough though. Generational stuff is tricky.
For sure. I think that's one of the biggest struggles. And we used to have in our community a very good newspaper that everybody relied on. And of course, I think that shut down a couple of years ago. And that always seems to be the go-to thing to say, oh, well, if we still had the Valley News, but then not shifting the mentality to say, okay, but you know, we have these other platforms that have a bigger reach. But it's just hard for people to see that sometimes. So
Yeah, and I think if you've got good quality and consistent content, then those social media platforms will just grow and grow. So replacing that newspaper, and like you could even, you know, do a little campaign of this is the new newspaper, like check out the new newspaper, like, you know, just, you know, kind of having fun with it, but then that, like creating that as your community go-to, and then continuing to educate those people that if you go here, walking them through it, you know, it might take a little bit of extra time, but walking them through it and pointing them in the right direction, and then say to them, like, now tell your friends, like, and now you can be the social media expert and walk your friends through, this is where you go, this is how you get the information. And then as long as the information is continually updated and continually fresh and on brand and on where it's always the community information is always listed there, then it will just continue to grow. It's when there's sometimes a missing piece of when people, they might start something, they have all these great intentions, and then it falls off the rails. Nothing gets posted for a month at a time, or and then just the credibility goes down the tubes, because then people think, oh, it's not being updated, so why would I go here? And then they forget all about it. But if it's constantly the place that they go to and they find all the information that they need time after time after time, that credibility builds, that consistency builds, and then they just begin to trust that form of communication more and more. Just like the newspaper, it's the exact same thing, but it's just in a different form now. They always could trust the newspaper. They could find out what they needed to know through the newspaper.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So thanks, Sabrina, for your input.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Where are you from, Josie?
I'm from Rostern.
Oh, from Rostern.
I'm actually backdoor neighbors-ish with Jessica.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Rostern is another community that has a pretty incredible golf course, if I remember correctly, too.
Yeah, we have a gorgeous golf course.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.